Okay, everybody, let's get started by tying the Survive Entry Series Halo Shrimp. The Halo Shrimp is one of the lightest landing shrimps that you can use in salt water. This shrimp uses a tungsten jig bomb bead underneath it. You can use any size, like a 2 to 4 millimeter, 2.5 and 3 and 3.5 millimeter beads work out great. And typically that bead is put in the middle of the shrimp pattern so that it's a hovering pattern. If you want to put that bead towards the front eye, you can, and that'll make it more of a jigging pattern. But this is ultra light landing and great for sight casting in shallow flats. And as the tide goes up, you can switch and put on a halo shrimp with a heavier bead. All right, let's get started right now by putting in the hook. For this pattern, we're using a Gamakatsu SL11 3H. You can use anything from as large as a size 2 on down to a size 8. For this particular video, we're going to use a size 6. Use your 140 denier thread in shell pink. Get that started by putting a nice base of thread up and down the shank to give you a nice working area, secure, and then go ahead and cut off the tag. Okay, we're going to start by mounting the bead. In any Survive Entry pattern, you want to put the bead on first. So this is Umpqua 25 pound, but the important thing is the diameter. It's 0.19. Any kind of 0.19 you wish, you can use. Go ahead and take some smooth, flat nose pliers and flatten out the front tip of that and move your thread back just about forward of middle and lash that down right to the top, okay? Now we can add on our bead. I went a little too far. There you go. I'm going to use a smaller 2.5 millimeter bead for this video. Now, these tungsten jig bomb beads do have a concave and a convex side. I like the round side facing forward, but it really probably doesn't matter. Slide that bead on, run your thread right onto the other side, and then with your smooth nose pliers, give it a nice press again to reduce bulk, and then clip that off. Run the thread up and down it to secure it, and then do your wraps on each side, kind of like an X wrap on each side of that bead to secure the bead. What's great about this is you'll notice that bead is permanently mounted underneath the hook, and that little bead will flip that hook over every single time to ride it hook up and with no splash. So this is key. All right, let's go ahead and do our tail. I do like running thread a little bit down the shank, the bend, I should say, and then back up. We're going to be using Arctic foxtail here. It's so great because it breathes amazingly and it doesn't absorb water. And it's easy to cast and has a lot of life. Sometimes you can clip off a little too much with Arctic Fox. Go ahead and pull a little out if you clipped off a little too much. And I like the length to be about the length of the shank, give or take, hanging back. And go ahead and tie that on the top and run that thread straight down. You don't need a ton of turns on that, so you can spread them out a bit if you want and run it down the bend of the hook. All right, very good. Now to cut that off, cut on an angle like that, and that reduces bulk and helps it taper nicely in towards that bead. All right, now let's go ahead and add our Chicone barred micro crusher legs. So this is a brown barred clear. You only need one leg, so go ahead and grab the one leg and clip it off. And what you can do here is you can just tie it on the top and put a leg on. We're tying it right in the middle. And put a leg on each side of that Arctic Fox, okay? Don't pull too tight because you can cut these legs with that 140 thread if it's too tight. Now, I like the legs to be a little longer than the Arctic Fox, so there you go. Trim it like so. All right, now we're going to put in our Crystal Flash, one piece of root beer. Root beer is actually available in both standard and in pearl. I'm using a pearl root beer. I'm going to go ahead and again, tie it in the middle of the Crystal Flash, fold it over so that you have one on each side of that tail. Great. And again, just like the rubber legs, go ahead and trim them just a little bit, about the length or a little longer than that tail. Okay, we're ready now for our pearl body mylar cord. Okay, this dyed mylar cord, you can do it in pearl. I'm using a dyed orange. Now, the mylar cord does have a cord in it, so you got to pull that cord out and just keep the mylar. Extend that back maybe about 1/2 of an inch. tie it right over on the shank, and then run it down right up to the rubber legs in that Arctic fox. And again, here you can cut that on an angle if you wish to just blend that in right up to our tungsten bead. Okay, there we go. Now you can use your scissors if you want to go ahead and flare that out. And if you wanted to cut a little bit of taper in that flash and that pearl mylar braid, you can do that. Okay, there's our tail, and now we're ready for our eyes. Now we're going to make our eyes. The eyes are beautiful. They are glass beads in a ruby red glass bead with black pupils made with that Solares UV glue. So let's go ahead and show you how to make these. You can also buy eyes as well if you wish, but hey, it's fly tying. It's nice to kind of make your own. Cut a piece of that same 019 mono. I like having an angled cut to feed the bead on one side, and then go ahead and we're going to burn a little mushroom on the other, or a little cap. So go ahead and hit that with a little bit of heat. That'll do. And then go ahead and use a black Sharpie marker to color the black pupil. So we're going to hit that black pupil and the edges of it with the Sharpie marker, just like we're doing here, all the edges and all. Okay, that'll give you that nice black pupil. Now, using the angled portion, we're going to thread on your glass bead like I just did there, and pull that glass bead right up to that black pupil. Use your Solares UV, any kind of UV glue, I guess, if you wish, and use it in the hard formula. Now, depending on the size of your fly, you can make small or big eyes. This is a size 6, so I don't need too big of an eye. I'm going to go ahead and spread that around, making sure it's all covered on front and back. And then I'm going to go ahead and spin it here with my hand just to spread that around. And I'll use my UV light to go ahead and hit that up. This UV is amazing how in literally 20 seconds, give or take, you can go ahead and harden up your eye. So look at that beautiful eye I've made. It's a red pearl with a black pupil. Okay, and I'll let that dry. You may want to make a bunch of these all at once. I made some before, so I'll take a couple pre-made ones. Now, go ahead and take your flat pliers and flatten it up to about 1/2 inch of the eye. That'll be where we tie it in. And so we'll go ahead and put that along the side of the hook shank. The eye should extend back about, I would say, usually I would say about 3/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. That one's a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and move that one forward just a bit. I don't want it extending. If you extend that eye too far, one of the downsides is you could have some tangling with it. So you don't want to extend those eyes too far. Now I bend that eye forward to crease it so that it flares out a bit, as you see there. And now let's do the other side. So grab another one of your eyes, go ahead and flatten it out with your mono pliers, flat nose pliers. And again, now when you put a couple loose wraps, check your eye length. Oh, look at that. Exact length. If you need to pull one eye forward or back to make them the same length, please. I don't think the fish will care if you got oblong length eyes, but whatever. We want to be proud of the flies we're tying. And then flare this one out as well by creasing it forward. So there we have two beautiful shrimp eyes, as you see, and they really glow. All right, we're almost ready. We're almost completing this fly. It goes pretty fast. Now I want you to take some Chinese rooster saddle hackle, okay, strung saddle hackle. This is in like a tan, we're calling it a tan. And what you're going to do is you're going to tie this in at the tip so that it leans backwards. And I'm going to go right up into here and flare it like that and just tie it. Actually, right on the bottom is better. I'll tie it right up to those eyes and then run the thread forward and clip off the tip. Okay. Now let's go ahead and get ourselves our pearl diamond braid. This is flat diamond braid. This is root beer. They do sell it in orange and various colors. For this pattern, actually, I do like an orange. Root beer will work though, so whatever you desire. So I'll use root beer, tie that in. I'll advance this forward, do a half hitch so that you can use the rotary feature of your vise. So I'm going to get my thread out of the way. All right, take that pearl flat diamond braid, and with the rotary feature of your vise, go ahead and wrap that forward right up to your tungsten bead. And if you're not happy with how it went around a tungsten bead, go ahead and do another one like that, and you can make it seamless. Okay, now let's go ahead and tie off that diamond braid and clip it off. Okay, Now we'll do another half hitch here and put that aside. And I do like using an Enrico wire finger brush. I use it for a lot of tying, especially when I'm palmering hackles. Now, we don't want the hackle to be too dense, so spread these turns because we want this to have it be soft landing, but we don't want it to resist it sinking that much. So once you get ahead of that bead, just like so, we are done. Okay, so I spread those turns quite a bit and go ahead and run your thread to catch that hackle. Okay, and now run the thread in front of it and clip that off. All right, couple extra turns for good measure on that. And then you can use your finger brush to go ahead and flare it out. Now, on the top of this hackle, we want to trim it all off because we're going to do our Arctic fox as our wing, and we don't want this hackle to prevent the Arctic fox from laying flush. So we cut all that hackle right off the top, just like so. All right, one last step here, and that's to tie in the last finishing of our Arctic fox for the wing. So go ahead and grab a clump of it. If you cut too much, you can go ahead and thin it out in your hand because remember, many times less is more. Pinch the tips and pull the fuzz out in the bottom to make it a little thinner. That looks great. Now, I like this wing to be about covering the gape of the hook and about halfway back on the wing. So line that up, put it on top, and very carefully go ahead and do a nice little lash down. Bring it in front of it, and let's clip that off. Now, stroke it all back, and let's do a nice little head on this. This fly is going to catch a lot of fish, so do a good whip finish on this. I'm actually going to do 2. So this is like a 4-turn whip finish or 5-turn here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do another one right now there to give me extra durability. It won't come apart, and honestly, I don't need to use glue if I don't want it, okay? This halo shrimp is one of the softest landing, most accurate shrimp patterns you're going to find, okay? Lands so light, very accurate. You can use it for a lot of different species and change the weight if you want hidden in the bottom. Thanks for watching this Umpqua signature tying session, and watch our other videos to see other survive entry flies tied. Good fly tying.